everyone, today we are reading the life cycle of the tadpole to the frog and part of our life cycle sequence. So this is non-fiction, remember, information book, and it will tell us all about the tadpole turning into a frog. We have our contents page here at the start of our non-fiction book, and we start off with what is a frog. A frog is an amphibian. It spends part of its life living in water and part of its life on land. The amphibians lay their eggs in water. They live in wet places, often near ponds or lakes. Common frogs have smooth, damp skin and golden eyes. Some frogs live in wet rainforests. They are called tree frogs. Most tree frogs are much smaller than frogs that live on the ground. These tree frogs' big red eyes and orange feet scare other animals away. So here's its foot and its eyes on that part of the tree. There, the tree frog. The story of a frog. A young frog is called a tadpole. It looks quite different from a frog. This small animal begins its life as an egg. The amazing story of how it becomes an adult frog is called its life cycle. So it starts as an egg. A frog goes through 3 stages in its life cycle. It spends all of the first 2 stages in water. So the egg is laid in water, and then the tadpole here is in water. And this is the frog here when it becomes big. Frog spawn. In spring, male and female frogs come together to mate. They always mate in water. A male grasps a female tightly. As the female lays her eggs, the male covers them with a liquid. This liquid fertilizes the eggs. Only fertilized eggs grow into tadpoles. The eggs are as soft as jelly. They stick together in a big clump called frog spawn. The frog spawn swells and floats to the surface of the water. Inside the eggs. Once the eggs are laid, the adult frogs swim away. Inside each egg, a new tadpole is growing. The tadpole feeds on a small yolk in the egg and grows bigger. A female frog may lay hundreds of eggs at a time, and you can see all the tadpoles here in the eggs and starting to come out the eggs. Many of the eggs are eaten by fish and other pond animals, but some survive and their tadpoles keep growing. After a few weeks, the eggs hatch. They hatch sooner in warm weather than they do in cold weather. And if you go looking at ponds soon, you will start to see frog spawn in the ponds that the frogs have laid, because we're coming into spring now, which is when you will start to see the frog spawn. Tiny tadpoles. Tadpoles are tiny when they hatch, but they quickly grow. Each tadpole has a long tail which it uses to swim. It has feathery gills on each side of its head. These allow the young tadpole to breathe underwater. So you can see the gills here. They're like little feathery bits sticking out of the sides of the tadpole and its tail down here. To begin with, tadpoles just eat small green water plants. Later, they will also eat pond animals such as water fleas. Tadpoles feed and grow. They grow faster when they live in warm water with plenty of food. That's the best conditions. The big change. When they're about 7 weeks old, tadpoles begin to change into frogs. First, they grow back legs. A few weeks later, their gills disappear. Then they swim to the surface of the water to breathe air. So here's the tadpole, and the tadpole's back legs grow first. And you can start to grow back legs. Then its front legs begin to grow, starts growing the front legs. As the legs grow stronger, the tail grows shorter. So as those legs grow bigger and stronger, the tail gets shorter. Their tails begin to shrink and their front legs begin to grow. The tadpoles now look like tiny frogs. By the time it is 12 weeks old, the tiny frog is about 3 centimeters long, which is 1, 2, 3, about that. 3 centimeters long. The little frogs keep growing and their tails disappear. They are now called froglets. The froglets stay in or near water. They feed on small insects which they catch with their long sticky tongue. Froglets can swim, crawl, hop and climb onto the floating leaves of lilies. When they are bigger, the froglets move away from their pond. They find a safe place under some plants where they can hide. This froglet is hiding in a pitcher plant in wood, and it's very well camouflaged there. So they will move away from the pond when they become frogs and turning into frogs. So as the froglet gets bigger, they move away from the pond and they find somewhere safe to hide. And the life of a frog. Adult frogs spend most of their time on land. They hide from animals that hunt them for food. Frogs rest during the day. In the evening, they hunt for insects, slugs, and worms. Frogs can make huge leaps to catch food with their long tongues. And this one's got a tongue coming out here that tries to catch the food. Many frogs have green, grey, or brown skin. They blend in with their surroundings and so are hard to see. This is called camouflage. Camouflage helps a frog to hide from animals that want to eat it. Back to the pond. Frogs hibernate in winter. This is because there is little food to eat and the weather is cold. When animals hibernate, they fall into a deep sleep to save energy. Frogs hibernate under rocks, in burrows, or in ponds. In spring, frogs return to the pond where they were born. This is where the adult frogs mate. Soon the story of the life cycle will begin again. Frogs are ready to mate when they are 2 to 3 years old. So it's got quite a long life, the frog, compared to some of the animals that we've been reading about, some of the creatures. Male tree frogs croak loudly to call the female to mate. And there we go. So that was the life cycle of the tadpole to the frog, which undergoes, as we said, metamorphosis. That's when the baby of the creature changes significantly when it becomes an adult. So it's unrecognizable, really, to what it was when it was a baby.